Seeing does not depend on the eyes, but on the level of consciousness. Most people ask for answers, but not everyone is ready to transform their perception. This audiobook is not a catalog of beautiful phrases, nor a quick guide to having more. It is an invitation to look at the universe from where it truly transforms, from within. The secrets of the universe are not complicated, they are uncomfortable. They are not given to those who desire them, but to those who are willing to change their frequency. Because the universe does not respond to logic, it responds to vibration. And that vibration only changes when you go through certain internal stages that not everyone is willing to traverse. This journey is not mental, it is energetic. In the following stages, you will recognize patterns, pains, and structures that have determined your reality without you knowing it. And instead of theorizing, you will see how that awakening feels in practice, in the body, in emotions, in money, in your relationships, and above all, in the level of consciousness from which you live. This audiobook reveals something that many do not want to accept, that the universe does not reward those who know, but those who vibrate differently. And that transformation, although it is available to everyone, not everyone chooses it. Here you begin to choose, and if you continue, you will do so knowing that the secrets of the universe were never for everyone. Chapter 1. The Sleep. It is not the mind that understands, it is consciousness that reveals. And while consciousness sleeps, life is reduced to a mechanical repetition where the soul walks, works, speaks, laughs, but does not inhabit anywhere. Sleep does not refer to resting, but to forgetting. Forgetting who you are, forgetting your internal power, forgetting that your life is not an accident, but an energetic expression. In this state, the mind directs and the being simply obeys. When the soul sleeps, the person lives trapped in external noise. Opinions, expectations, invented urgencies, goals that are not born from the heart, they become experts at surviving, but beginners at living. They feel anxiety upon waking, rush during the day, and emptiness at nightfall. A silent feeling of not belonging to their own life. It is not sadness, it is disconnection. It is not lack of success, it is lack of consciousness. Alan Watts explained that the greatest illusion of the human being is to believe that their thoughts are themselves. That absolute identification with the mind is the core of sleep. When you believe you are your fear, you paralyze yourself. When you believe you are your story, you limit yourself. When you believe you are your achievements, you lose yourself. Thus is born a character who makes decisions, says yes to what they do not want, seeks approval in every movement, and moves further and further away from their real essence. A clear example is someone who fulfills all the objectives that society considers correct. They study, get a stable job, buy things, achieve promotions, but internally feel a constant void. They wonder why, if they have everything, they do not feel satisfaction. And the reason is simple. The life they built was not born from their soul, but from their fear of failure. That is sleep, living from obligation instead of from authenticity. Awakening does not begin with an external change, it begins with an internal recognition. It is not about giving up everything or destroying your life. It is about becoming aware that the way you have functioned until today is not necessarily your truth. Instead of questioning yourself from guilt or demand, you can enter a space of honest observation. Did I choose this path, or was it imposed? Are my goals mine or inherited? Does what I do every day bring me closer to my essence or take me away? This type of reflection does not judge you, it reveals you. It allows you to notice that although you have been physically awake, internally you lived in penumbra, and recognizing it does not weaken you. It frees you, because the more evident the sleep becomes, the closer you are to awakening. The initial key is to recover presence. Sometimes it is enough to sit in silence for a few minutes without distractions, or walk without headphones, or write without filters what you really feel. When the mind reduces its noise, consciousness begins to emerge. You do not need great rituals or complicated practices. You only need to allow yourself to feel authentically without hiding behind obligations or appearances. And when consciousness begins to open its eyes, something inevitable happens. The sleep begins to crack. The things you used to tolerate no longer feel right. The places where you used to fit no longer hold your soul. The masks begin to become heavy, and life, silently but powerfully, takes you to the next stage. In the next chapter, you will enter the territory where everything begins to break, the rupture. The moment when the universe awakens you through crises, losses, discomforts, or unexpected changes. It is not punishment. It is the first act of awakening. Chapter 2. The Rupture. Discomfort does not arrive to punish you. It arrives to awaken you. When the soul begins to remember who it is, the first thing it feels is not clarity. It is rupture. A vibrational separation between the life it has built from the ego and the truth that begins to emerge from its internal being. Nothing external seems to make sense. Routines lose flavor, bonds wear out, goals no longer motivate, not because the world is wrong, but because you are no longer aligned with it. This moment usually manifests as crisis, illnesses that force you to stop, relationships that break without explanation, losses that were not foreseen, spiritual confusion without apparent exit, and the mind, trapped in its old logic, interprets everything as error or punishment. But from an energetic vision, it is the opposite. It is an evolutionary impulse. When consciousness begins to expand, the old crumbles to make space for the real. Many try to cling to the previous, seek to restore what is broken, resume the known, avoid change, but that only intensifies the pain, because this stage did not come to be resolved, it came to be inhabited. In vibrational language, each crisis is a frequency adjustment, it is a portal, and whoever manages to cross it without denying it awakens something they could not see before. Master Eckhart Tolle spoke of the pain body as that energetic memory that we carry and that is activated with rupture. But far from being an enemy, this pain body is a door. By observing it without judgment, by feeling it without evasion, it dissolves, and with its dissolution, a new consciousness emerges, freer, clearer, more authentic. During this stage, many people discover internal practices they had never explored before. Deep breathing, pauses without guilt, conscious writing, contact with nature. The trick is not in overcoming the crisis, but in allowing the crisis to reconfigure you. Ask yourself questions that open new paths. What part of me is dying? What truth am I resisting? What new me is pushing to be born? The rupture is painful, but also sacred. In the following chapter, you will enter the threshold of the new, the expansion. When the mind stops fighting and the soul begins to remember its vibrational power, that is where true awakening begins. Chapter 3. The expansion. After the rupture comes the opening. The mind, previously rigid and structured, begins to wonder if there is something more, something beyond matter, beyond the evident, beyond control. And in that search, a new language appears: energy, frequency, vibration, consciousness. What seemed esoteric becomes logical. What seemed like magic begins to be explained. This stage is marked by enthusiasm. The person discovers the law of attraction, decrees, metaphysics, positive thinking, and feels that finally everything makes sense. There is a new brightness in their gaze, an almost childlike emotion to learn, to manifest, to create. It is the phase of, I devoured 5 books in a week, of, I watched all the manifestation videos on YouTube, of, I want to tell everyone about this. But that opening also brings confusion, because everything is understood with the mind, but not yet embodied with the being. They believe that thinking beautifully is enough, that visualizing is sufficient, that repeating affirmations changes everything, and when the results do not come so easily, frustration returns. Not because the law does not work, but because it is still being applied from anxiety and not from coherence. One of the most solid references in this stage is Abraham Hicks, who teaches that the universe does not respond to what you desire, but to your dominant vibration. That is, it is not enough to think about abundance. You have to be a stable frequency of abundance. Expansion is not only intellectual opening, it is energetic tuning, and that takes time and practice. During this phase, many people feel alone or misunderstood. Their environment has not yet awakened, and they do not know how to apply everything they learn without seeming strange. Here, it is key not to try to convince anyone or force external change. It is time to explore, to experiment, to learn to feel energy before wanting to control it. We are going to work on an integration exercise, the vibrational journal. Each night, before sleeping, write 3 moments of your day that elevated your energy and 3 moments that lowered it. Do not analyze it, just observe them. Then ask yourself, what emotion was constant today? What thoughts did I repeat the most? What part of my day made me feel most in expansion? By doing this for at least 7 consecutive days, you begin to notice patterns. Perhaps you discover that talking to a certain person drains you, or that certain automatic thoughts like, this is not going to work out, or I am not enough, repeat themselves without you realizing. That observation is gold. It is the vibrational map you need to move forward. Over time, you will learn not only to identify your vibration, but to stabilize it. That is where the real work begins, moving from knowing to doing. In the following chapter, we will enter a fundamental stage of the path, the test. Because when the mind opens, life tests whether the heart is ready to sustain that new frequency. That is where many abandon and where the true awakened ones keep walking. Chapter 4. The test. After expansion comes the test, not as punishment but as calibration. Life wants to know if your new consciousness is just enthusiasm or true transformation. Here, the tools you learned are put to the test, not in meditation, but in chaos. Everything that seemed to be under control begins to move. Relationships that no longer vibrate with you fall away. Projects that you sustained from the ego close. Unexpected challenges appear that take you out of your center. And there arises the true question. Are you going to react as before, or are you going to respond from who you are beginning to be? This stage is delicate because many believe they regressed, that their awakening was false, that energy stopped working, but it is not so. It is precisely because you are changing that life rearranges everything that no longer vibrates with your new frequency. It is like doing deep cleaning. First, everything looks messy, but then it is organized with purpose. In this phase, old patterns return not to torment you, but to give you the opportunity to choose differently. Fear returns, but now you know how to breathe it. Scarcity appears, but now you know how to observe it. Doubt screams, but your presence embraces it. That is the test. Are you capable of sustaining your frequency even when reality challenges it? Bruce Lipton teaches that the subconscious mind is reprogrammed not when you understand something, but when you choose it. Differently under pressure, not when everything is fine, but when your old self wants to take control and you choose not to give it the wheel. Continue with this implementation exercise, the anchor of the present self. For 3 days, write down 3 moments where your automatic reaction wanted to appear. Anger, complaint, guilt, self-sabotage. Then, write next to it what would have been a more aligned response with your new consciousness. After identifying those more elevated responses, choose one as an anchor and repeat it at the beginning of each day. For example, today I choose to respond with confidence. Today I choose to sustain my center. That phrase will be your vibrational switch in the middle of the storm. This exercise is not to achieve perfection, it is to cultivate presence, because true spirituality is not measured by what you understand, but by what you embody. And once you pass this stage, something reorganizes. You no longer need everything to be perfect to feel peace. It is then that a new interior architecture is born. In the next chapter, we will talk about that key stage, reconstruction, because after every rupture, a more real version of you emerges. Chapter 5. The Reconstruction. After the test comes reconfiguration. It is no longer just about understanding, but about choosing differently. Your consciousness has changed, and now life begins to align with your new vibration. What you used to do out of habit, now you do by decision. What you used to tolerate out of inertia, now you release through clarity. Reconstruction is not a return to what was before. It is a beginning from another place. New priorities appear, new bonds, new ways of being in the world. Some friendships distance themselves, not because of conflict, but because of frequency. Some activities lose meaning, not because of failure, but because of evolution. This stage is not one of euphoria, it is one of refinement, less noise, more direction. In the words of Florence Scovel, Shin, pioneer of practical metaphysics, it is not about forcing life, but about tuning in with its rhythm. When your internal energy reorders itself, the quantum field responds, not from the immediate, but from the inevitable, because everything that coincides with you begins to find you. Here, you learn to act without haste, to speak with intention, to choose without anxiety. Your habits become rituals. Your word begins to have weight, and your presence magnetism. You are no longer seeking external validation because your axis is within. You have begun to inhabit your new self, tool to integrate this level, the map of the new reality. Take a sheet and draw 4 areas: habits, relationships, spaces, and words. Under each category, note what things no longer vibrate with you, what practices you want to incorporate, what environments you need to modify, and what type of language you are ready to use with yourself and with others. Then, choose one concrete action per week that embodies that new identity under construction. This exercise is not mental, it is vibrational. It is an act of commitment to the person you are beginning to be. And when your life is organized from this new center, purpose appears. You no longer just want to understand yourself, you want to give yourself. In the next chapter, we will talk about that elevated phase where the soul no longer seeks to accumulate, but to offer, the stage of mission. Chapter 6. The Mission. When internal reconstruction reaches a certain level of coherence, something new emerges, something that is not sought, but that is felt. A calling, it does not come from the mind or from the ego, it comes from the soul. It is the deep feeling that your existence is not only for you, but for something greater. It is not ambition, it is expansion. It is not sacrifice, it is alignment. In this stage, it is no longer about healing or understanding, but about giving. Wounds no longer govern your decisions. The desire to contribute takes its place. What you used to do to validate yourself, now you do to serve. What used to be a personal project now becomes a collective channel. Energy finds its course, and your life, its purpose. Here the mission begins to define itself, and not from a great mystical revelation, but from a silent clarity that guides you. It can be accompanying others, creating something meaningful, teaching, writing, inspiring, building, healing. The external form does not matter. What matters is the vibration from which you do it. Authentic service does not exhaust, it expands, because it is not born from duty, it is born from connection. Michael Beckwith, founder of the Agape International Spiritual Center, explains it clearly. You did not come to this world to earn a living, you came to express it. His work integrates principles of consciousness, spiritual vision, and loving service, and he teaches that every human being is a channel through which universal intelligence manifests, if it is allowed. Beckwith does not speak of purpose as a goal, but as a frequency. You do not define it with the mind, you discover it when your being becomes an empty space willing to receive direction. This level is not about doing more, it is about doing from another place. When you serve from your soul, your gifts amplify, the right people appear, and abundance flows naturally, not because you are seeking it, but because you are fulfilling your original design. Energy Alignment Proposal, the Purpose Journal. For 7 days, at the end of each day, answer these 3 questions in a notebook. From where did I act today? From fear or from expansion? What did I do today that helped someone else, even in something minimal? What part of me felt alive doing it? After 7 days, reread your answers and underline the patterns. There is the clue to your mission, not as theory, but as living experience. When you live from purpose, service becomes enjoyment, energy becomes source, and time becomes ally. In the last chapter, we will talk about the most elevated stage, when you stop living for yourself and begin to live as a channel. Because whoever serves with consciousness transforms realities. Chapter 7. The Service. When the soul has awakened, gone through rupture, explored expansion, refined its energy, and recognized its purpose, the last natural step appears, to serve. But not to serve from obligation or from sacrifice, to serve as full expression of what you already are. Service is not planned, it is embodied. It occurs when your consciousness becomes useful space for others, when your transformed wounds become a path for those who come behind, when your elevated energy stops being only for you and becomes a bridge for everyone. It does not matter if you are a therapist, artist, mother, leader, entrepreneur, or teacher. Real service is not defined by the role, but by the vibration from which you live that role. This is the stage where the soul no longer wants to be seen. It wants to see. It no longer seeks recognition. It seeks to contribute. It no longer wants to fulfill a mission as if it were an external task. It wants to be an instrument. Everything flows with more lightness because you no longer ask yourself, how do I earn more? But how do I give better? And in that selfless giving, everything returns multiplied. Dr. David Hawkins, author of the book Power versus Force and creator of one of the best-known scales of consciousness, taught that the vibrational level of unconditional service is one of the highest that a human being can reach, not because they suffer, but because the ego is transcended. Hawkins was not talking about forced philanthropy, but about energetic coherence. According to his scale, true influence does not come from intensity, but from the level of consciousness from which you emit your energy. And whoever serves from genuine love transforms the field around them. Integration tool. Conscious acts of expansion. Choose 3 actions you usually do by routine. For example, making a coffee, sending an email, answering a message. Now, for the next 7 days, do those same actions as if they were service. Direct your attention to how you can do them from love, from presence, from the greater good. Feel that you are expanding energy, not just completing tasks. At the end of each day, write down at what moment did I serve without looking for it. Where did I feel like a channel and not a protagonist? That is serving with consciousness. The universe does not reward those who do more, but those who emit more light in what they do. And when your life becomes conscious service, your paths open, your relationships clear, your abundance stabilizes, and your soul smiles. This is the closing of the journey, but also the beginning of another, because now that you know the stages of awakening, you can look at your story again and choose to go through it with presence. Because as always, the universe does not open for everyone, only for those who are ready to see it. There is knowledge that is read and others that awaken. And this audiobook was designed for that, not to inform you, but to activate a memory that already lives in you. If you have come this far, you are not the same being who began listening to the first chapter. Because when consciousness expands, there is no turning back. The secrets of the universe are not hidden. They reveal themselves to those who are ready to see beyond the obvious. They are not recipes, they are frequencies. They are not formulas, they are levels of vibration, and not everyone finds them, not because they are hidden, but because few are willing to look at themselves with truth. This audiobook did not come to give you certainties. It came to ignite you, to move you inside, to remind you that your soul did not come to conform, it came to create. Now you know that awakening is not a goal, it is a route, and that each stage you have lived, sleep, rupture, expansion, test, reconstruction, mission, and service, were not obstacles. They were thresholds. Thank you for allowing this voice to accompany your transit. And if you feel there is more to discover, I invite you to continue listening to the other audiobooks on the channel. Each one is a new door. Each one is a new vibration. And remember, the secrets of the universe are not for everyone, but they are for those who can no longer continue living asleep. They are for you. If this message resonated with you, if something inside shifted while listening, do not let this awakening stop here. Subscribe to the channel so you can continue this journey of consciousness and transformation. Each audiobook is a new frequency, a new portal opening. Hit that subscribe button now and activate notifications so you do not miss the next stages of your evolution. The universe is calling you. Will you answer?